Oliver.
Okay, it looks like the live stream is back up. We need Commissioner Soon-Shiong and Commissioner Roman.
I don't have Commissioner Soon-Shiong's contact information. If you could send it to her. Okay, did somebody send her the information?
Yes, I've emailed, but if someone has her cell phone, let me know before we get started.
Okay, let's start. Staff, because we can, everybody know that we can get all of these recordings on YouTube. We'll probably have to edit these two together. Staff, my request is in the index, a link to the chapter in this video, and that would mean that they can click on that link and it'll take them straight to this building and safety these presentations we just had. I also liked the explanation last month of Chief Smith about the reason for the swarming response, a lot of resources going to a response. I thought that was very good, and we have that question often in this commission. Okay, are there any more commissioner comments on this or questions? Okay, let's move on to block by block. Please keep it concise. Anything unusual, block by block? You're muted, Shay.
Very sorry about that. So I was saying, good evening, commissioners and public safety staff and city staff. Nothing really unusual last month. I would like to say that one of our morning team leads, Mr. Cesar Barrios, has been doing a very good job in trying to exhaust his efforts in connecting the homeless population with our service providers. So I want to congratulate him on that. Also, we have an update on the kiosks for the Brea and Santa Monica. Our storage area where we were keeping it, which was Massage Envy, is closing and actually leaving the district. So we are now moving it over to, with the help from the good people, the UPS store on Santa Monica Boulevard. They're gonna allow us to store our kiosks there. The times will be the same as far as operation. The only thing different is that Sundays, UPS store is closed, but to offset that, we still will have a guard on duty in that same position down there. So we shouldn't miss a beat on that. Also, the service hours of the trolleys have been extended. So we've extended our service hours as well, from going from now on Friday and Saturday from 8 p.m. to 3 a.m. in the morning. Trolleys are now in full capacity ridership, which is around 25 persons. And other than that, same thing, transient. If any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners? Okay, I just want to.
Commissioners, sorry, Chair, could you all just turn your cameras on for a minute, just to make sure we still have a quorum here? I only see 3 of you. Do we still have, okay, we've got one, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Commissioner Roman, are you still with us?
We may have lost him.
Okay, we
have a
do
quorum.
have a quorum though, Chair, to continue.
Okay, thank you. I just want to bring up again on the 21st, the public safety meeting with the city council. That'll, I think 6 o'clock, I think staff told us. Those things will be on there, I believe, the kiosks, maybe more kiosks and maybe foot patrol. I think those kind of things were going to be discussed. Okay, let's move on to sheriffs. Please keep it concise. Anything unusual?
Hi, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners, city staff, and members of our community. So for February of 2022, Part 1 crime was up 137% with 249 incidents when compared to last February of 2021 with 105 incidents. And this is the highest monthly total of Part 1 crimes since we've been keeping those statistics. The West Side was up 323%. City Center was up 66%. And the East Side was up 31%. And we are up 89% in Part 1 crimes year to date as compared to the same time last year. Part 1 crime breakdown, the West Side had 58% of the Part 1 crimes. City Center had 22%, and the East Side had 20%. Robberies were up from last February, up about 120% from 5 to 11. Residential burglaries were down. They were down about 66%, which is good. Aggravated assaults were also down about 23%. Theft crimes continued to drive the numbers. There were 191 theft crimes, 81 grand theft, 54 vehicle burglary, and 56 petty thefts. There were 54 vehicle burglaries, like I mentioned, and we're watching this and we'll continue. As I said, we've conducted a couple operations and we'll continue to work with our neighboring agencies, LAPD and Beverly Hills, regarding this issue. Beverly Hills and LAPD recently arrested some Oakland gang members who were down here committing these crimes. So we believe that the Northern California criminal street gangs are coming back down here again. So we'll be continually addressing that. Last meeting, Commissioner Soon-Shiong asked about the detective solve rate for grand theft. So what we did is we took the grand thefts from January and February, and for those 2 months, 2 of those cases have been solved. Commissioner Balbone had asked about complaints from last year. Last year, 2021, there were 10 service complaints, 26 personnel complaints, and 41 commendations. And the difference between a service complaint and a personnel complaint, a service complaint is like, it took a half an hour for deputies to respond to the call. A personnel complaint is in the realm of, the deputy was rude to me on a traffic stop and other things as well. So Chair Berger and Commissioner Roman inquired about bike thefts, and we did also provide that information. Just quickly, for 2021, there were 27 grand theft bike thefts, 25 petty thefts of bike, for a total of 52 for last year, 2021, and currently for 2022, there were a total of 5. On February 15th, a male tried to pull a female into a garage area in the city of Los Angeles near West Hollywood. The female was able to get away from the suspect. Less than an hour later, in the city of West Hollywood on Hampton Avenue, the same male tried to push a female into her apartment. The female screamed and the suspect ran away, and this suspect was arrested by LAPD on February 17th, so that's good news. We continue to conduct our saturation patrols, plainclothes operations, and other types of operations with our cops and entertainment policing teams. We have run recent crime suppression operations with both of our teams as well to address a lot of these crimes that I kind of described earlier. We've been focusing on the West Side because a large number of the thefts have been occurring there. We're also using other department units to assist us in these operations, and that will continue. We're using our Narcotics Bureau, our Major Crimes Bureau, our TRAP team, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and to help in these endeavors. As our wonderful brothers and sisters from Fire mentioned, LA Marathon is on Sunday, March 20th. So everybody be aware of that. There will be street closures, not only in West Hollywood, but throughout the city of Los Angeles and throughout LA County. As you know, the department has agreed to participate in the study with the Center for Policing Equity. We've given them all the information, and now we're just, as they go through and conduct their analysis and have questions, we're just answering those as we move along. Last meeting also, Commissioner Soon-Shiong also asked about what our special teams, our COPS team, entertainment policing team do on our operations. On February 2nd, the team conducted numerous patrol checks throughout the city. Additional patrol checks were also including West Hollywood Park and around the city. We've been getting a lot of complaints about transient behavior in West Hollywood Park. Due to the recent robberies occurring through the city, we did a high visibility foot patrol conducted on Melrose Avenue in the shopping district. The team personnel saturated that area with high visibility foot beats and contacted businesses in the area to see if there are any issues that we could help them with. Patrol checks were also conducted on the residential streets of Rosewood, Rangeley, Dorrington, and Ashcroft. February 9th, we did another team, one of our team operations. The team personnel, along with detectives from our TRAP team, which is the Task Force for Regional Auto Theft Prevention, is a team made up of LA County Sheriff, LAPD, CHP, and other agencies, multi-jurisdictional task force, conducted a grand theft auto operation in an effort to locate stolen vehicles, expired registration, and possible VIN switches. About four vehicles were impounded for having expired registration over 6 months. Numerous traffic stops were conducted. On February 16th, another operation, our team personnel did a saturation patrol of the mid-city area and the rest of the city in an effort to arrest the individual who had committed the attempt sexual assault and kidnapping in West Hollywood, and previously, as I talked about earlier, previously attempted the same thing in LA City's area. Obviously, they did not locate him that day. He was located the next day by LAPD, but that day we did locate another sex offender in our area who was wanted for a sexual battery case in West Hollywood. He had additional warrants, some of those including other sex offenses. And this same individual was previously arrested in West Hollywood for sexually assaulting a 5-year-old girl in Plummer Park. February 23rd, the team conducted a high visibility foot patrol checks on the east end of the city, specifically the Gateway area. We contacted people at businesses at Target, Best Buy, McDonald's, and Rite Aid. We also contacted security staff at Target specifically to check on issues, in addition to Starbucks and some other businesses in the area, as well as I mentioned Rite Aid. We also then, same operation, conducted a high visibility patrol checks, footbeat patrol checks on the west end of the city, and also contacted businesses there, specifically on Santa Monica and Robertson Boulevard area, and contacting management and security staff at some of the businesses as well. And that was regarding pickpocketing and vehicle burglaries, which those two events have been happening on the west side of town. And then lastly, we have 7 new deputies at the station. We got 6, and we'll be expecting 1 more in the next week or so, who will be on training. So we're happy about that, a new addition to our West Hollywood family. And then deputies Danny Martinez and Yesenia Olvera, who were members of our COPS team, who are now training officers, will be honored at an upcoming city council meeting for saving a 1-year-old baby that I spoke about at a previous public safety meeting. They'll be honored by Mayor Meister and the city council. And that's all I have if you have any questions.
Thank you. And that training for those 7 deputies is including sensitivity training?
Yeah, so yeah, as you know, as we've been kind of emailing back and forth, Chair Berger, that obviously because of the pandemic, a lot of the training and other things for our department and everybody have been derailed. So we've reached back out to specifically TransCan work to reestablish our relationship and the Trans 101 training for our new and current personnel who have not gone through that yet. So we're in the process of doing that, as well as I believe Mayor Pro Tem Shine had asked about doing some training with the Rape Treatment Center. We've also reached out to them and are trying to coordinate good times for them to come in during briefings to catch all our employees to do some training briefing for them as well.
Okay, thank you. I don't know who was first, Commissioner Balbone or Commissioner Soon-Shiong. Let's go with Commissioner Soon-Shiong.
Hi, thank you so much. I have a couple of questions. So looking at what was sent in the packet, calls for service on February 2021 was 1,329, and calls for service in February 2022 was 1,624. Yet there were fewer arrests. And so I'm interested in why there are more crimes on page 3, reported on page 3. So there are way more crimes, but way fewer arrests than on 2021. And I also want to emphasize the fact that grand theft is actually what is being reported for the increase in crime, which went up 400%, which is slightly hard for me to believe, or I just want to understand where those numbers, how to make sense of these numbers and these different graphs that are presented.
Yeah, so in terms of the, when you're talking about grand theft and the grand theft going up, or I think maybe, are you talking about the 300, when you're talking about when I mentioned 323% that the West Side was up with Part 1 crimes, is that the particular, what you're referring to?
I'm looking at the whole city data. So that would be page 1 of the PDF and page 3 of the PDF. Page 1, page 2, page 3, which reflect three things. One, that there are more calls for service, there are fewer arrests, and crime is going up, which is something that I've also been saying, that I'm trying to understand the effect on prevention of crime.
Right. So in terms of the amount that crime has gone up, what we do is we compare Part 1 crimes to like the previous year. So like in this case, February of 2022 is compared with February of 2021. And so we see the difference in Part 1 crimes. And if there's more, then it's gone up, and there's a percentage determined behind that. And then if they go down, there's also a percentage determined behind that in terms of the amount they've gone down. So that's how we gauge how we're doing in terms of crime, is comparing the Part 1 crime, doing a Part 1 crime analysis. So with regard to the arrest, when you're talking about calls for service that were for February of 2022, and they had 96 arrests as opposed to 1,329 with 137 from last year. Yeah, I don't know. I would not know how to characterize that. You know, that we might have more calls, but the more calls that we had might not have been situations where people were there and present to be arrested, or situations that would require somebody to be arrested.
And I have a request. Would it be possible for each of these categories for the whole city data to actually also indicate arrests for each of the homicide, rape, assault, aggravated? So we are able to see that in conjunction with the reported crime.
So, you know, I think I'm kind of paging back through some of the information and seeing if, what you guys get if we provide that. But we certainly can. We have in each category like what people were arrested for each month, and that also can be provided. Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful to be included on the page 3 of the PDF, so that we're able to understand a whole picture of the activities of the department. in what, for my opinion, what would be a more understandable format.
And then probably just in the part 1 crime category, so we can compare like kind of oranges to oranges, looking at like part 1 crime. Obviously, that's what we look at. And then we'll look at maybe part 1 crime arrests in each of those categories for each month.
Right. In 2021.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Commissioner Balbone.
So I did have a question. Thank you for your report. In terms of the Oakland situation, I know the last time that the city saw this with vehicle burglary, there were certain preventive measures that were taken. And I want to say I'm dusting off brain cells, but one of them was working with the rental car companies to restrict rentals, right, from people who were coming in from that area, known suspects. Is any of that underway as well to help with this if we know we've got that element coming back down from Oakland?
Yeah, so with regard to that practice, I think that we do work with rental car companies, and when the rental vehicle has been used in a crime, they identify obviously the person that has rented the vehicle. And I'm not sure what all their policies are, but I know that was a request that maybe they don't rent to that person anymore, because these cars, maybe once or more than once, have been used in various crimes throughout LA County.
Okay. And then I did want to bring up an incident that occurred in my neighborhood next door to me on Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, between 7 and 8, there was someone screaming and moaning in the apartment, behind the apartment that is next door to me. And after about 20 minutes, I couldn't tell what was going on, and I was still in my bathrobe and wasn't planning to go outside. I called, and the person who answered let me know that there was already somebody en route. About 2 or 3 minutes later, an officer showed up, started talking to the person. Another minute or 2 later, the fire department showed up. And what I would characterize from what I could hear, the person was treated humanely. And I don't think they were taken into custody, but they were taken out of the situation, talked down, and the matter was resolved. And I thought the officer did a very nice job of speaking to this person, ensuring that the situation was handled. I think this person was having some type of mental distress. I'm not sure what it was. But I just wanted to actually say that and thank the officer that was involved who responded first, because, I don't think the person was arrested. They were given some help and support, and I very much appreciated it. So I just figured I would mention it and say it out loud and let you know, Bill, that we hear oftentimes everything that goes wrong. Saturday, whoever that was got it right. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Balbone, for your kind words. We appreciate it.
And I also want to thank fire. They were not needed, but they also.
You froze up, Commissioner Balbone. I think she was done. Lieutenant Mulder, I have a few questions really quickly. The questions that Commissioner Roman, the additional questions that Commissioner Roman asked in the email, were you unable to get the data for those? Because you can bring those next time. Otherwise, I can read those to you.
Yeah, if you want to go through those, I know you wanted some additional data if the people how many people were caught for bike theft, and if those people had previously committed crimes or maybe that particular kind of crime. So we got that request yesterday, and it's going to take a little bit more time, because they're going to have to go through and pull all those reports, look to see if anybody had been arrested, then go through the arrest record of those individuals to see if they have one, and so forth. So information like that will take some more time to put together.
Okay, let me run through these really quickly. Do you do you consult with your statewide and nationwide bicycle registries when you get a stolen bicycle?
So yeah, I'm aware of that program. So when we have a stolen bicycle, and if the victim has the serial number of the bike, it's input into our computer system under stolen property, so it can be identified. So for instance, if somebody goes and stops somebody on a bike, for whatever reason, and they have some suspicion that the bike's stolen, they can run the serial number of the bicycle into this system, and it will show that the bike has indeed been reported stolen, much kind of like a car and a license plate, essentially. So that's the system that we use, but that's also dependent upon the victim having the serial number of the bike. So we encourage people to make sure you have your serial numbers written down somewhere in case of any kind of item that is a serialized property. In case that it's stolen, it's very helpful for us then to try to get it recovered, because we have people on our department that go to pawn shops and check those regularly. We have people obviously that deputies in the field will check bikes to see if they've been stolen under certain circumstances, and other property as well. So it's and then a lot of times if we do a warrant on a home for theft and we find a bunch of property, they'll go through to see if any serialized property they recover is in the system. It can be returned to the rightful owner.
Okay. Are there any detectives tasked specifically with investigating bike theft? And secondly, do you carry out stings where expensive unlocked bikes are used as bait?
So first, we don't have a specific detective assigned to just bikes. So what happens is when a report comes in of a bike theft, if there's workable information, it will be assigned to a detective. Otherwise, it'll be made pending. And what that means is you come out, if your bike's in your front yard and it had been, even if it's been secured, somebody cuts the chain or whatever takes the bike, there's no video, there's no witnesses, there's nothing else other than maybe the bike, obviously a description of the bike and maybe a serial number. We put it in the system, and our detectives may do like a look around the neighborhood, for video or anything like that, because obviously there's a lot of video everywhere. But if there isn't any, then that case will be on hold until other information comes up about that case. But if we do have some good information, then it gets. Go ahead.
Go ahead. How frequently do you carry out stings with unlocked bike or unlocked? Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chair. Go ahead.
Where expensive unlocked bikes are used as bait.
So in the time that I've been back at West Hollywood, we have not done one of those stings, but that's certainly something we can look into doing. Okay,
thank you. Commissioner Oliver?
Yes, thank you. I first just want to say I'm very glad that law enforcement was able to apprehend that the individual who had attempted multiple sexual assaults. And also, as we're going, as we're having these discussions, I think that some of these cases are, the real lived realities in a very imperfect world. As we speak about public safety in a very theoretical way, the sexual battery, the horrific sexual assault of a child at Plummer Park. These are. I just want to say I appreciate the work of law enforcement to apprehend and prosecute somebody who would sexually abuse a child. I also wanted to ask Lieutenant Mulder, is there a lapse in security, perhaps some way at the park, something at the park that could be fixed to prevent such crimes from happening again?
There are kind of many components that go into park safety, and certainly Plummer Park has gotten a lot better over the last several years. I know, and that's a big thanks to our public safety director, Kristen Cook, who has done a great job of putting together a great public safety plan there. We have block by block there. I believe we have our security officers there as well. And then sheriffs, we do have park patrols there. And all of those things have worked really well to I think, improve what's going on in the park. And I know that the city, you guys were having a discussion earlier about cameras. I know prior to the pandemic, there was a specific discussion, and we were directed to go and look in Plummer Park and kind of indicate where a good place to put cameras are in Plummer Park. That got put on hold, obviously, as we came into the pandemic, but I'm sure with the camera discussion, that discussion will resurface. I'm a huge proponent of cameras. I think they're fantastic, and they go a long way to protect public safety. And when things happen, then bringing people to justice.
Okay, thank you. Before we go on to any more questions, commissioners, I believe that's the 10 minutes. Do you want to extend? Consensus, raise your hand. Okay, we're going to move on. Lieutenant Mulder, one last request, if you guys can look into it with the data, is repeat offenders. I don't know how difficult that will be. So when you run into another arrest for repeat offenders. Okay.
For the bike theft?
Well, I mean, I would like to see it for everything, but I don't know how data intensive that would be. Maybe you can just kind of look into that.
That's pretty intensive. So let me look into what we can do, but otherwise that would be pretty labor intensive to get all that information, but we'll look into see what we can do.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to, let's see, we're on commission work plan and follow-up items.
And Chair, Commissioners Oliver and Hallman gave their report on the emergency plan at the beginning of the meeting. I don't have anything additional to report at this time, except that for your April meeting, kind of blending into 10A ahead, we'll be discussing reimagining Neighborhood Watch, possibly rebranding it, renaming it. So put your thinking caps on, come up with some clever ideas. And also the camera discussion that was asked for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, on the work plan, do you want to look at that, reprioritize, or add items? You're good with our regular meetings then? Okay, let's move on. Items from staff, public comments. Nothing. Before I ask for, well, let's go with commissioner comments. Go ahead. None. Okay, staff, I want to do this each time. Requests that were made, can you summarize if any requests were made? And commissioners, can you, oh, I see. Let me finish my sentence. If there was a request that you made, can you please state it if it's not listed? Commissioner Hallman.
Thank you. I just kind of want to circle back to our earlier topic and so many residents coming to the meeting tonight to express their concerns regarding public safety and our sheriff's department. I'm thankful they were all here. Wearing my other hat as neighborhood watch captain, these are things that I've been yelling from the mountaintop about since 2015. More deputies on the street, more community policing, bike patrol. I am not a defund. I would like to figure out how we can make it work better. Our sheriff's department, there is always room for improvement with everything. And as we are living in these very tumultuous times, I think we need to band together as a city and figure out these issues because residents don't feel safe. We also need to look at our mental health crises. It is an epidemic in itself. And I think we are failing our unhoused individuals. So I think as a commission, as residents, as a city, hopefully something has started and we'll get there. Commissioner Oliver and I are going on a ride along with sheriffs. I'm looking forward to doing this. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. Lieutenant Mulder has been very gracious to arrange this for us because I would like to see what a deputy's day is like. So hopefully, we'll be able to report back after that ride along, what we experienced. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hallman. And just to note, all of us have the access to do those ride-alongs. I highly recommend it. Commissioner Balbon.
So I also wanted to thank everyone who came out to speak. I, in our last meeting, mentioned that I didn't have enough information to support the motion that came forward. And one thing that I want to make sure that, I point out is 15%, 18% of time of any given job does not equate to FTEs, because I am sure that it's not 15% of each day. Sometimes it's 50% of the day. Sometimes it may be no percent of the day. And when we try to equate, as an operations person, a percentage of time to FTEs, we really need to be careful about that and thoughtful, because we know we have 7 sheriffs in the morning, 8 sheriffs kind of in the afternoon, evening, and 7 overnight. When we talk about cutting by 10, I don't know where that's going to come from. And I think, we need to very much consider the details based on what the public came and told us their feelings were tonight. And I did not feel I had enough information to support a detailed motion to the effect of what happened last month. So I just wanted to say, it's fine to have dialogue. It's fine to want to move things around and address things differently. But I do believe we have an obligation to understand the variance that could happen on any given shift when we're talking about shift work. So that's important. And I would also like to understand next steps, and I'll report back. We had someone come and talk about the fact that we're having underreported sexual assaults for the men in the community. There will be, I forgot to mention this in my update because it's still underway, a focused conversation that will be happening as a study session for public safety, the Women's Advisory Board, the LGAB, and the TAB, to sit down with members of the City Council and city staff to talk about sexual assault more broadly than just the subcommission that was formed between the WAB and our group. And I'd like to make sure we carry that forward and that we continue to think about that. I'm not ready to add an item to our work plan until that study session happens, but I just want to put it front and center that we may need to based on what we find there. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Balbon. Commissioner Soon-Shiong.
Sure, I'd like to clarify that there are 2 separate issues. One is that the cost of FTEs has gone up 150% over the past 10 years, which essentially means that it's going up 20%. And we have no control of, as a city, of that cost increase. And so a vendor is saying that the price will rise by 20% every year, and by their own data is showing that there are more calls for service, fewer arrests, and higher crime, which essentially means that the effects of their interventions are not reducing crime. And the $3 million I propose reallocating to social services is needed because of the $5 million social services budget and the $20 million sheriff's contract budget, which is paying for fewer and fewer officers. And so I want to separate those two issues from an attempt to translate the 18% of their time that they actually spend on addressing homelessness and mental health from the cost of FTE. So there's two issues. One, price is rising. We have no control over that cost increase. And two, there's not enough money for social services, which for me creates a simple equation where the reallocation of funds to social services, given that we do have a limited budget as a city, is what's called for. So thank you very much.
Yeah, but that's not what you offered last month. You said go down by 10. So you were very specific in what you said. And I think you have an obligation. I'm just going to finish my thought.
Mhm.
You have an obligation, if that's what you want to do it collaboratively and thoughtfully. And that's not what was done. So I'm just making sure that when we make recommendations going forward, if you want to be as specific as 10 FTEs, we need to understand the ramifications of that. And I don't think we did. And I think that you have some very valid points. But if, in this commission, I'm ever expected to support a motion like that again, I need more detail on what the impact will be to the shifts that support the people in this city who came to speak to us tonight. So,
okay, before we continue, I don't want, hold on a second, hold on, wait a second. I don't want to get into a discussion. These are commissioner comments. You can respond one more time, Commissioner Soon-Shiong. But if we do bring something like this forward, and you bring something like that that sounds very factual, then we will want to have the sheriff's department person here as well, so they can explain those kinds of things on an agenda item or something like that. Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Soon-Shiong.
I think if we re-listen to the recording, my exact wording was to reallocate $3 million from the sheriff's department contract, which is the equivalent of 10 FTEs. And that's just what the numbers say. And that was my proposal. Not to specifically reduce 10 officers. I have no control or no say over what a reduction of funds in the contract would imply for how the sheriffs allocate their resources, how the units are organized. My exact wording was to reallocate $3 million from the contract to social services, which is the equivalent of 10 FTEs.
Okay, thank you. We have a person, looks like they've got their hand raised for public comment. Commission, this is not normal. Richie, I haven't seen you before. I'm going to ask the commission, do we want to allow this out of line? Is there a consensus to allow this public comment? This usually public comment, or Richie, we do the public comment previous to this. And if the commission, there's a consensus to allow it, then we'll do it. Otherwise, you'll have to do it next time. So commissioners, raise of hand, you want to allow this public comment? Okay, we have one. It's got to be a majority. Okay, Richie, sorry, next time if you can come, or you can write to our city staff, our liaison, and she can send that all to all of us. It will come out to all of us, but please try to make it ahead of time next time. Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're going to adjourn.
Google LASD games. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and adjourn. Okay, that's it. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.